what is the terrorist's favorite bomb? They're just all kinds of things. Yeah, I mean, when you sit down and write, because you've got to find out all the horrible things that can possibly happen to your protagonist when you're putting him in a situation. And so you've got to go look those things up. And at first it starts off easily enough, you try to find out about trauma on a knife wound. Okay, that's not so bad. And then, well, your characters have guns, so you got to find out about bullet wounds. All right, I guess that's reasonable. Well, now there's a dead body they've got to hide.
What's a practical way of disposing of a dead body?
Yeah, so, how do police go about investigating murders? What could prevent them from finding out who done it?
Reddit has made things a lot easier. That's basically how I end up staying up till 3:30, watching some Vietnamese prison documentary. Is just following that line all the way through the night. I do have more on a more serious note. I have a friend actually who is Pakistani, and he's a writer, and he seriously actually has to watch what he Googles. Right? And so this is something I wasn't really familiar with, and I was just joking about it with him, and he's like, "No, seriously, can I use your computer?" No.
I wrote a short story once where there was a hostage situation with a sniper on the roof. It was one of Michael's kids in the one short story, and I actually went and researched the building and figured out how to do it, and got on Google Maps and found out where all the street lights were and the local billboards and signs and anything that could have been part of the problem. And it's like, okay, well, I've researched this situation with my my Call of Duty knowledge, such as it is, and then wrote up the story. And I was at a signing in Chicago, and a guy comes up to me to have the story signed. He's like, "Hey, man, is it okay with you if I talk to you about where you got this information and who gave it to you? I'm a member of Chicago SWAT, and we sort of like to keep track of people who know things like this." And I looked at him and said, "I did it myself. I got online on Google Earth and figured it out." He's like, "God, I hate the internet." Yeah, right here. Yes, ma'am.
How important is music in your creative process, and if so, why?
I mean, a lot of times I have particular music for certain characters that help me kind of sink back into their mindset. I think that each character has a particular tone, which I think is easier to honor sometimes through music than it is through, keeping a document to remember their key features or whatever. So, certain characters I'll listen to Biggie Smalls, like Tupac, like Persevera's Tupac or Biggie. And it helps me kind of get into this damn the world mentality. But then for other characters, there's some Sting. Or some Enya action, and it all depends on what your character does. But for me, a lot of times it's difficult to write consistently with lyrics going on. So a lot of times I'll just use classical music or post-rock music, like Mogwai or people like that.
Most of my Viewpoint characters have a theme song that I will occasionally listen to and just set it on loop when I'm writing when I'm doing a particular character scene. Dresden has several. He gets lots of angry punk garage band music. And let's see, Offspring and Stabbing Westward are also good for Dresden. I'm an Offspring fan, so.
Yeah, it's a good way to drive your roommates crazy when you have them, by replaying the same song 90 times. Just finish the damn scene, man.
But every book that I write also has a movie that goes in the background for when I'm writing on the book. And then when I sit down, if I'm not listening to music, I'll have the movie going. And the movie's either got to be bad enough that it doesn't distract me very often, except for the parts I really like, or I have to have seen it so many times I don't need to see it to watch it. I just need to hear what's going on.
Does the background noise help you, or does it just make you not think?
No, well, I mean, it's sort of, it's like I turn the movie on. Oh, it's time to be working on this book now. But it's got to be a movie that's really terrible, which is okay because I love terrible movies. But also, or it can be something that I've just heard a lot that's kind of got its own music to it, like Star Wars, like Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah.
Big Trouble in Little China is a great background.
What are you watching right now for what you're writing?
I'm not writing right now. As it turns out, I need a place where I've got the complete moral authority to tell everybody, shut up and get out of the room, I'm working, or else I just don't feel, I can't get into that concentration zone. But the house I'm building is 15 months late, and I'm living in my fiance's house that she bought with her own money, and so I don't have any moral authority there. She's like, she assures me, yes you do, yes you do. It's like, no I don't, I can't pee on anything here, it's not which is irrational, but that's apparently how it works. But I'm moving into my new house at the end of June, so I'll be able to actually start getting work done. I mean, I'm getting work done, but it's about the 20th of my usual pace, so it's very frustrating to me. So,
Okay, let's go over this side of the room. Yeah, right here.
Really quick question. Will you ever post what book, what music, and what movies you've listened to? I've had other authors in their books that do list the songs that they've listened to when they've written, which is kind of cool to have to look to reference.
I mean, I'd say I would, but then I'll procrastinate and not do it.
Well, it'd be nice if you did.
yeah, okay, I'll
Sure.
try and remember that. I'll put it on Twitter or
Music
something.
and TV shows.
Okay.
Let's go right here.
If you could write in somebody else's sandbox, who's your dream world to write in somebody else's world?
Books only? Like films or what? I mean, it'd be hard to not want to write Star Wars. Or to like do a crossbreed between like the Silmarillion and Hamlet. That'd be sexy. And hard.
For me, I got to do it. I got to write Spider-Man. Although once I did that, I found out what it's like playing in a corporate sandbox. It's not a lot of fun. There's committees, and you have to have things approved. And I got to the end of the book, and they're like, "This is just too short." And I'm like, "Well, this is what they approved." And they're like, "Okay, well, you need to make it at least 20,000 words longer, but there's no time to approve it in committee again. So you need to make it 20,000 words longer without changing anything." I'm like, oh my gosh, how would I? Okay, if somebody came to me with advice, what advice could I possibly give them? And I was thinking about it, and I'm like, you know what? If this was a romance writer with this problem, I would just say, that's easy. Just add more orgasms.
20,000 orgasms? I want to read this book.
Yeah, but I was writing a comic book, so I just added more kapows. Yeah, seemed to amount to the same thing.
Yeah, right here, please.
When you're writing Bob the Stall, whose head or whose voice do you hear in your head?
The voice of my friend Phil Kilgore, who runs one of the finest gaming store in Kansas City right now. But at the time, he was just an employee at Hobby Haven. But he was also the DM of our D&D game at the time. And but yeah, Phil had this character voice that he always did. And it just kind of ran along like this, and there was always some mouthy pickup that would talk in that voice, and it was that pickup's job to just make fun of the party, and that's all Phil would do, would just be to mock the players when he was playing that character. And you always wanted to kill that character, but there was always a reason you couldn't. And so I used that character when I was DMing later on, and then when I started writing the first book, I'm like, oh yeah, this character has to be Harry Seidel, because I've got to make fun of him as much as possible. So.
We go over here. Yeah, right here.
So how did you start your writing careers? What really got you into writing?
I moved around a lot when I was a kid. We lived in 7 states, went to 12 schools, so like books were kind of the things I took with me. Friends are harder to take across state lines legally. And so the stories that I loved as a kid were things like Redwall, the Star Wars Extended Universe, and those are the stories that I populated my brain with when I was digging holes in the woods and building forts or things like that. So whenever I was alone, I was continually recycling stories that I heard, but then also thinking what's happening in the Millennium Falcon when we're not there. And so that's, to be honest, what kind of, I think, built that muscle. And then I started writing. I wrote my first book when I was 18, and it was like this god-awful 700-page epic fantasy where these people fly griffins and throw lances at each other. It's basically like Game of Thrones meets Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles without turtles. But then I just kept writing after that, and it was, I mean, Red Rising was probably my 7th book that I'd written, so I'd been rejected up until that point. And I fortunately was at a point where I was making so little money in any job that I could get that I wasn't really losing any opportunity by continuing to write. So I'd work, my $10 an hour job and then come home and write above my parents' garage. And I was able to force out a lot of material that way. And then Red Rising happened, so.
For me, my senior year of high school, I was skipping class. But as I was a nerd, I was skipping class by going to the library. And while I was in there, the vice principal, who was in charge of student discipline, walked in and saw me, walked over to me, and I'm like, oh crap. And he goes, hey Jim, are you here for the author? And I'm like, yes I am here for the author. And he's like, okay, great, help me set up some chairs. And it's like, what could I do? So I did, and then I sat down, and Margaret Weiss of the Dragonlance Chronicles came in because she lives, her hometown was Independence, Missouri, and so she'd come speak at the high school, and so she talked about writing, and I thought, well, that's kind of cool. I can get into that. Because she was talking about how when she was writing that Tracy Hickman had programmed her computer so that every time she hit a key, a random Star Wars blaster sound effect played. So that when she was writing, it sounded like there were just millions of Jawas being murdered. And honestly, that's what attracted it to me more than anything else. But eventually, yeah. I mean, it kind of started there. It's Margaret's fault.
Yeah, I think you find one author that you latch onto to a degree. I mean, mine was probably in terms of style. Initially, it was George R. Martin stuff because I finished reading the series. I think it was Feast for Crows was out then, and I was like, I needed some other outlet. I needed something else. And the first story I wrote was kind of a rip-off of his completely. And so then I just kept writing other things when I started realizing I rip off other things too. Then you finally find your own voice, I think.
Yeah, right here.
What are your thoughts on the new Twin Peaks series?
Ooh.
I haven't seen it, or the original. So.
Wow, where to start? I think it's very Lynchian. I mean, the news. I couldn't give you any input at all on the new ones because I don't think we know anything about the overall arc yet. Right now, I'm actually taking my girlfriend through the first season, so we're on episode 12. We're watching them. And it's kind of fun to see her. I think she freaked out when the midgets started dancing, which is just delightful. See, there's dancing midgets. Jump on in. Yeah.
Nobody said anything about midgets. I have to go.
I like it. I like the new stuff so far. I just don't know how else to answer at this point. I don't want to ruin anything.
My question is, I guess, a little bit similar. You mentioned Stephen King earlier, and I wondered if you guys were super excited about the new Gunslinger movie, or if you guys just kind of put that away.
Did you see the trailer?
No, I kind of keep it all a secret. That way I don't make any prejudgments. So I just wondered if you guys were excited or not.
I'm keeping my expectations low because I find that's the best way to enjoy a movie, and that's really what I'm interested in doing.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Okay.
I was pretty excited actually initially about the casting. I actually liked the direction they went.
Idris Elba.
I mean, he's fantastic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. But then I watched the trailer and it feels like it's not even the
Maybe
same
not the same.
DNA of the books,
Okay.
which I don't think something has to be a perfect adaptation in terms of being following the material in terms of the plot arc and everything. I mean, Lord of the Rings was fantastic because it captured the majesty of the vision. It captured the soul. I mean, Harry Potter movies are fun because they captured the soul of the books.
Right.
And so I don't feel like the trailer has captured the soul. Now, that's just the trailer though.
I think a lot of it's going to depend on which book they're using as their inspiration for the movie, because if they're using the rewritten Gunslinger instead of the original Gunslinger, I mean, there's a very significant change in tone because King was a much different person when he rewrote it. I don't know why he did that. Honestly, I mean, I guess it does occasionally drive me crazy